Hello, good evening, and welcome to UPfront. Today, we get upfront on the budget again, but this time around, our problem will not be where the money is coming from. We will look policy by policy how the Akufo-Addo government seeks to transform nation Ghana, whether it can do so, and with what level of competence will this happen. I'll tell you who my guest is after this short break. You welcome back. Upfront today is going to have a very exciting conversation. The chairman of the economic management team, let's not forget, this is government economic policy and budget for the entire fiscal year, i.e. throughout the year 2018, you would see what government want to do in this document. And this is what it presented yesterday. Indeed, the document is presented for and on behalf of the executive president by the finance minister. Now, the finance minister is part of the economic management team that put it together, but there's a chairman of the economic management team. That's the vice president of the Republic of Ghana. Today, my guest is his technical economic advisor. The crux of our conversation is the thinking that went into the budget. Is it realistic? Can we achieve the many programs we have put together in this budget? We will take a sneak peek to the year 2017, which is still have some few weeks to go. Did we perform as the Akufo-Addo's second budget gets rolled on? Now, Dr. Gideon Boaku is my guest in the studios here. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you, my brother.
The second time I'm getting you. The first time it was after the media review, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So we can project from the media review and see how far we've gone from that particular length. But I hope you are doing well.
I'm good.
It feels good being in that office, I know. Yeah. Okay.
So you say.
Now, let me start from this particular basis. The year 2017 was the Akufo-Addo government's first year in office. It was a year that they had to come in and implement some of the big-time campaign promises he put together. It was a year that he also had to face the challenges of having to roll over from an election year and all of the difficulties that comes with that. How has this government performed? Let me just run you through what we're told during the media review, the maintained, revised, and improved macroeconomic targets. And we have a brief comment on that. Now, on growth, for instance, we're told that the real GDP growth for the first quarter was 6.6% against 4.4% for the same period in 2016. Agriculture was 7.8% against 5% for the same period in 2016. Industry was 11.5% against 1.8% for the same period in 2016. Services was 3.7% against 6.6% for the same period in 2016. Non-oil GDP growth was 3.9% against 6.3% from the same period in 2016. And inflation, 12.1% at end June, down from 15.4% as of December 2016. There's a T-bill rates and all of that detail is given out there. Now, the finance minister gave us an update on some of these. Some of them looked very good. He actually told us what the quarter 2 and other quarter 3 figures as of September we are talking about. Now, there's a bit of concern as to why some of the figures are as of September and others are as of June and others are as of August. The concern here is that it looks like government was picking and choosing the nice places to tell the story in a glamorous manner. Doc.
No, thank you very much. I'm glad you gave me this opportunity. Actually, it doesn't look like that. You know, the computation of some of these figures, some are done at the Ministry of Finance and others are also done by the Statistical Service. And there's always a time lag between when the actual data comes out from the Statistical Service and when people expect to have them. And so obviously, for some of them, you may feel comfortable going into the September figures because they are available. Others, you may not have the figures as by end of September, and so you have to use the June figures. What is most important is the fact that even though this government has not exhausted the 12-month mandate for this year, most of the figures that are coming compare favorably with the figures that we saw for the whole of 12 months in 2016. And so it's like trying to play a football match and you're playing 10 against 11, and the one which has only 10 players outbeating the one which has 11 players, or writing a WASI, and somebody goes to third year and write WASI, and the person who writes was even at the second year is performing better. So comparatively, you realize that the person who is at the second year is doing better than the person who is at the third year. That is the most important thing. If this government had compared 12 months of its performance as against 9 months of the previous government, then you could say the government is not being fair. But the government is taking the challenge and even comparing 9 months or 6 months of its performance against some 12 months and 9 months and 6 months of the previous government. And so this government has been very charitable in these comparisons. For instance, the GDP figures, as of now, the GDP figures we're talking about, I think, for just 9 months. It's around 7 point, just two quarters, and just around 7.8, which is far better than even 12 months in 2016, which was around 3.7. And so I think the figures as they are, our colleagues on the minority side should rather be jubilating, because we've not compared 12 months against 12 months. When we do that analysis, when we get there, you will see that the government has performed so well. And so that is how the figures issued.
But you don't have 12 months figures, of course, unless you project there, so we can get
that is it. That is why I'm saying that even the 9 months and the 6 months are comparing favorably with some 12 months figures of the previous government. That gives us the comfort that this government is actually doing well.
It's interesting you say so, but I want us to look clearly and keenly at the growth rates you're talking about, and maybe perhaps look at it more keenly. Now, in the area of agric, for instance, the understanding here is that for the period we are speaking to, and that is the quarter, what do you call it, change in this particular case, it presupposes that GDP, for instance, was largely driven by oil. Yeah. That is looking at 2016 as against 2017. Yeah. But what has been happening in the area of oil development under this government?
Yeah, I think that has been the trend, if I stand to be corrected, if I'm right, since 2011, when we started having our first oil coming upstream. And so 2011 had a growth of around 14%, largely due to the oil. And so it moves and it moves on like that. This year, the same thing. Okay, so the oil contributes so much to growth. It doesn't mean that the non-oil sectors are not growing. But of course, if I'm in the same class with you and your IQ is so high than me, no matter how best I perform, you have a damping effect on me. And so the oil sector definitely will have a damping effect on all other sectors of the economy. When the oil sector experiences boom, and the boom in the oil sector is always good, it doesn't mean that the other sectors are not growing. For instance, if you look at the decomposition, you can see that the services sector is growing around 55.9% as compared to previous year. Industry 25.6%, agriculture 18.5%. And so even though the oil sector is growing, the oil sector basically within the industry sector, if you do the whole aggregation and you look at the contribution of the industrial sector vis-a-vis the services sector, which employs a lot of people, you can see that the service sector has the highest percentage of contribution.
There's a part that I wanted clarity on, because, for example, I mean, the non-oil GDP growth for 2016 was actually 5.0, according to the revised figure from the...
By September, September, not the whole of 2016.
Yes, 2016, yeah.
By September 2016?
Yeah.
Not the 12 months of 2016?
No, the 12 months of 2016, that's what I'm talking about.
Was 5 point?
That's 5.0. The revised figure from the Ghana Statistics, that's higher than that.
It used to be 4 point. Okay, so revised.
Yes, true.
Now.
So it actually was 4.8 then, and of course this year's own is also 4.8. As I see,
the expected one.
Yes, it's 4.8. I mean, so in terms of non-oil GDP, it looks like 2016 is doing better than 2017.
Now, if you look at it in that percentage-wise, that could be. Then you also have to look at the nominal figures. Okay, it doesn't mean that 2016. The non-oil GDP component was higher than this year. And so, and of course, we haven't ended 2017. Like even 2016, we ended with 4.8. Later, it was revised to 5.0. Yeah. So we haven't ended 2017. Actually, the actual figures for the GDP figures for 2017 can better be realized accurately when we are in 2018.
I get your point.
These things keep on changing. Yeah.
Now, I mean, looking at these figures, and there's a concern many people have about the rate at which the service sector is becoming a big issue in this country. We all know that agriculture has been slumping for God knows how long. We also know that industry is not doing as well as it ought to be doing in this particular case. Is there a plan to change the domineering control of the services sector? That's what people say. We grow, but we have what is called a jobless growth phenomenon.
You see, as a country, we need to put our minds together and see how best we can try to integrate the various sectors of our economy to have commensurate contribution to our size as an economy. The services sector is good because there is also a huge employment issue in the services sector, and it also gives us revenue, just as the industry and other thing. But of course, if a country wants to move, like for instance, the president's talking about moving beyond aid. If we want to move beyond aid, then we must think of how best we can we can have the Ghanaian ownership and make sure that we produce and also process what we have. And so the issue of industry and manufacturing is very key. And so that is why the thinking at this time through the moving beyond aid agenda is to see how best we can increase our production possibility frontiers and make sure that Ghana is able to produce and process most of the things that it produces. And one of the key tenets of this is the issue of the industrialization agenda that is driven by the president and this government. That is a one district, one factory policy. It is not a policy that government intends to dish out money to go and create industries all over the world, but it's a policy drive that government is leading. It's leading an agenda such that the private sector will see the need to follow such agenda and make sure that we create the needed industries and the factories that we need to be able to increase our production possibility frontier.
That policy really has seen no implementation.
As of now, you may say it so, because as a policy...
Because you even launched it in Kunfi, where you launched it with the plantation, the disputed what they call a project and all of that. Beyond that, as we speak, the president says 109 factories, concepts or papers were ready for implementation. We've not heard anything since that particular indication was given. The minister has consistently talked about the number of factories that are still being reviewed and all of that. When exactly are we likely to get to see a single factory in any part of this country attributed to the one district, one factory program? So
you see, instigating a public policy into actionable ones takes time. It's a matter of process.
The government of this republic should have known that it would take time.
No. What is important, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't start.
I get your point.
So what is important?
Then you don't give us the impression that this is a program we want to do in 2017.
No, this is a program.
In reality, 2017 may just end without you having a single factory in place.
I don't think the government of Ghana said every district will have a factory in 2017.
No, at least they said 50% would have been ready this year.
So it's a policy that should be run, not just during the tenure of only this government, but even continuous government. But the most important thing is that the government has taken the 7 months of the implementation of its budget, 2017 budget, to lay down the frameworks that will spare, that
so
kind of sector. And that is the most important thing.
We have a few weeks to end this year. Would we have a single factory ready before the year ends?
I'm very sure.
Where?
Well, I may not be able to say now. It's not, that is the thing.
I get your point.
Yeah, that's the thing that the Ministry of Trade and Industry
I get you, but when I speak to people from that ministry, I get the impression that we are still going through the motions.
No, you see,
if you speak to AGI, I get the impression that they do not know whether the money is going to be made available next week or the week's coming. No, we are in November.
That's also a wrong impression. Government is not going to provide all the money for these industries. I get your point.
That's why
it's a private sector-led initiative. Now, government
is the ones that's actually collaborating with government in this area.
As part
they do not know when their support is going to come from the other side.
Government, as part of its support, has put in place seed funds to make sure that those who need business proposal, feasibility studies, and the government supports them. Government also, through the trip to China, went with AGI and was able to help them through their negotiations to also do some memorandum of understanding.
No, I get that particular point.
So government is doing all that. What is important is that the projects that are coming on board must be viable. And so the private men should see viability in the projects and sustainability in the projects for them to go into it. And the banks should also be ready to provide that kind of financial support. This is not a government-led project. It's a private sector-led project. Every private sector-led person would want to make sure that where he's citing the project, he'll be able to get value for money and also
like
not run into loss.
Tells me, and 2 days ago, we engaged them. The understanding I got from the AGI is that they are ever ready. Yeah. What they're waiting for is government's own readiness in this particular case.
So what kind of particular readiness they expect from
government? Because, for example, they said that the engagements they had with them, the proposals were ready. What they wanted was the government's commitment. They also said that, of course, there's some amount of money supposed to be coming from China that government's supposed to facilitate. That's also being put on ice. That is what is impeding the flow of these factories.
Yeah, so granted that these are fair comments, I don't think government will want to stampede the process at any point in time. We wish that the process is run smoothly. And so there are bottlenecks here and there, like, for instance, talking about the money from China. The banks that were supposed to go through the process and do the arrangements have been selected by the AGI and the Chinese CNBM. And so government of Ghana has very little contribution to this. And so if
the banks have been selected.
Yeah.
Do we know when the money will flow?
That is between AGI and CNB.
But they also are looking after government. That's a surprising part.
No, I don't know what kind of influence they want government to come in with at this time. But if there is any, I think I mean that is the wish of this government. Government would do. What I understand is that probably they need government to grant them some tax incentives. They need government to grant them some kind of rebates and all of that
those are the environments you said you paid for them
exactly,
to
and these are the environment the Ministry of Trade have been in talks with the AGI about. And so I think smoothly they have that arrangement. If it comes to government providing, let's say, 50% of the money for the project, I don't think government has that capacity. And the government has not declared that intention to do. Government wants to put down the necessary business environment for them to be able to move and try very well. And I think that discussion has been going on. And the AGI know very well. And I think they appreciate the kind of inputs that government has been making as of now. And so that is how the whole thing is going. But like I said, it is private sector led, and every private sector man will want to see that whatever industry or factory he wants to build and where he wants to site it, raw materials will be available. Once they finish production, there will be market for those products. And so it will take some time for some of them to really get their feet back to their grounds to be able to establish what they want to establish. A government is prepared.
You are still convinced that by the end of this year there would have been a factory in the name of one district, one factory? From what you're telling me,
why not?
It doesn't look like a very feasible plan. So no. we can hold you to it and say that
not holding me to it. As a government, yes, that is our wish. But of course, it is not government that is going to pick the pickers and then things to the ground to say I've created the industry. It is from the private sector. So as and when they are ready, based on cost-benefit analysis, they will run. Every private sector will want to ensure that
1 million per constituency. What happened to that particular wonderful idea? The last time I spoke to the minister in charge, told me that they are collated views and ideas from across the country, and what is left really is the dissemination, distribution of the monies to the various parts of the country. Do we have the money?
So yeah, this was a laudable
we have the money?
This was a laudable idea for government to make sure that monies go to constituencies and the local communities for some constituency purposefully identified development projects. Okay, and they were supposed to go through a certain vehicle for the discharge. You remember the discussion has been around whether or not
the development authorities.
Yeah, whether or not it must be routed through the MP's common fund and all of that. And a whole lot of people have come with discussion. The cabinet and this government took a decision that we want to channel those funds through the development authorities. Of course, the establishment of the development authorities had to go through process. We've gone through the discussions, stakeholder consultations, move across the country, done all the consultation, established the development authorities, sent it to Parliament. Parliament has passed the bill. Every region have 10 committee members who are the agents for the development authorities, and they have gone around the constituencies within the region, done some analysis and feasibility studies, identify projects that are peculiar to certain communities and all. All these have been done within 7 months, and that is remarkable. Okay, all these have been done, and I've been part of that process.
And so once justifies the means.
What is the
end in this case?
Exactly. Once Parliament recently passed the bills for all these development authorities. When the bills have been passed already, before even Parliament passed the bill, some monies have been dispensed, and I can show you some 100 million cedis have been dispensed for some action to go on.
Sorry, 100 million cedi for what?
No, for the preparatory works, the people who went around to
So this is not 100 million cedi for...
I understand the actual work.
For the people in my hometown.
No, I understand.
Yes.
So like
okay, so these are like preparatory
exactly,
works.
for 7 months, all these processes have gone through, and Parliament duly...
And it took 100 million, that's a lot of money.
100 million for...
Yes, for all of these preparation work.
Not just the preparation work. Some areas have started procuring for some of the equipment and stuff to start work.
Oh, and really?
So, yeah, action is going on.
Where is the project?
You can get closer to the
which part of the country is the project?
If you ask me that question, I may not be able to answer specifically.
Because you told me that 100 million
exactly. That is what I'm telling you. From the macro level, I can tell you that. So if you get closer to the ministry, they'll be able to tell you where the projects are going. And so the good thing is that the development authority bills have been passed, and so action starts right away. That is the most important thing.
Okay, now that's interesting to know, but let me move on to another one that, was it yesterday or today, the Vice President actually launched the Zongo Development Fund. The understanding there is that...
the bill was passed.
The bill was passed, we know in Parliament, yes. But, well, there's supposed to be a Zongo Development Fund.
Exactly.
Have you put money in that particular fund? Have we established the fund?
Yeah, the Zongo Development Fund is a creation of this budget, of the 2017 budget.
Yeah.
And so once the bill establishing the fund has gone through Parliament and Parliament has passed a bill, it presupposes that the fund is also established.
So how much money do we put in 2017?
No, 2017 you had not had the bill, and so the fund was not created. All that had to be done were preparatory works to get the consultation done and the bill formed. And
okay, so it's the bill that creates the fund.
Exactly, it's the bill that creates the fund.
The bill was actually passed a couple of days ago.
So the bill has been.
So the money that is being proposed, the 200 million that I see in the budget, is going into next year's, what they call it.
If you read it to be for 2018, so will it be.
It will be for 2018.
If that is what you read, so will it be. No, but you have it in the
exactly. Yes, I see that.
Yeah, so once, the good thing is that in 7 months, all these have been done.
So in 7 months, there was no Zongo Development Fund?
There was no Zongo Development Fund because the bill that establishes it had not been passed.
It didn't tell the people of this republic that you have to go through strenuous bill passing to get them a Zongo Development Fund.
Everybody knows that once you want to establish something and the constitution of this country requires that it goes to Parliament, everybody knows it goes through the process.
Everybody knows in this country.
And that is what the books tell us, the constitution tells. And so that is not something that government will want to just, but the good thing is that we know the government has gone through the process of getting all these bills and their development authorities established. And it is good that we have them as we speak today, so we can start action on them.
Okay, so the construction of a dam in every village, when is it going to start? In the 3 regions of the north, to be specific.
I'm sure it was captured in the 2018 budget, and so government seeks to ensure that these are policy initiatives that were instigated or mentioned by the party during campaign.
I get you.
And of course.
Let me be clear. In 2017, was there a single dam in a district or a village in this republic under this program constructed?
Well, not as I know, but the Ministry of Agriculture over the years, used to construct some dams, but I'm not too sure how many dams have been constructed within this year. But if you want to say under the Zongo Development Fund, that is something.
No, under the one village, one dam.
Yeah, the one village, one dam. That is something we can get closer to the ministry to find out how many dams have been constructed this year and how many of them were under the one village, one dam project. You understand? So these are things that we can find out. But the good assurances we have is that 2018 action will start on these. And
it looks like virtually all the major programs for 2017 are 2018 implementation years.
No, you see, once
and that we used an entire year to prepare the grounds for
just 7 months, okay? And that is remarkable. We should take pride in that. We've been in this country, and sometimes some of these things take so long a time. But 7 months, within 7 months, Zongo Development Fund, Middlebelt Development Authority, Savannah Development Authority, Northern Development Authority.
That's just a bill you pass. It's just a bill. I mean,
it is not
nothing
easy
to do with
like
the release
that.
of the money.
It's
just a bill.
Yeah, but
and you were minded by the bills you passed before you made the promise.
You know, Raymond, without that, you cannot move. Without the full, you cannot move your car.
Yes, but I mean, government has done things on the certificate of urgency in times past. We've seen that happen. The first bill, or the first very parliamentary act that this government did was to go and amend the Local Government Act to allow government to remove the people who were previously government appointees to. Couldn't you have used that same process?
Remember, these bills were taken to Parliament under certificate of urgency.
That is a special prosecutor's bill.
Under the certificate of urgency.
But it's a committee that rejected it. It's not.
Exactly. So you see, every head has its scalp.
Okay, I get you.
So the good thing is that in 7 months, government has been able to do all this. And I think we have to applaud the government for achieving such a feat in just 7 months.
For doing preparatory work ahead of takeoff.
Exactly. That is what ought to be done. You know how long it takes for models to be developed, even in academia and all of that.
I get you.
Yeah, government has been able to do all this in 7 months.
And
working in swiftness.
You have the conviction that the people of this republic really knew that you were going to take this long to put all of them together.
Well, I think so, because, I mean, that is the process. Good people of Ghana, there is no way you can move your car without a fuel. There is no way these projects could continue. Development fund and all of that could be established without the bills establishing them. And so once the bills have been passed, I think people are happy about it.
Okay, I get you. Before I actually get to the other projects, and I'm now zooming into 2018 so that we can actually spend some time on what's going to happen looking into the future. But let me be clear on exactly what is the status of our debt to GDP ratio.
Yeah, so our debt to GDP ratio, as was mentioned by the finance minister now, is around 68.1%.
How do you calculate that?
That has been how
the old calculation,
World Bank, IMF, and all of that.
Yes. So my only difficulty is that
they take the stock of debt.
I heard the finance minister say in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana in 2017 that we are charting a new path and that the previous way of calculation is misleading because it's against a projected end-year GDP. We want to do it as against the GDP of the month. If possible, the figures are available.
Yeah, so you see, that is
why
a
were
stock.
we unable to do that?
That is a stock. GDP is a flow.
Yes.
Personally, as an academic, I don't like the way the debt to the GDP ratio is.
And it looks like the vice president doesn't like it. The finance minister doesn't like it, but yet it was not changed.
I'm coming. I don't like the way it is calculated by the Bank of Ghana, the World Bank, and the IMF. That is how the IMF, the World Bank, and all of that calculate debt to the GDP ratio for all other countries.
I get you.
They take a stock that is observed today as against a flow that you have not observed. And so the like terms principle does not apply.
Yeah.
As a government, we had stated that that is not the best way to calculate debt to GDP ratio. But of course, we don't have all the powers to change everything in this world. The statistical service that does it has not changed it. The Bank of Ghana has not changed it. The IMF have not changed it. The discussions have been going on. I can tell you we have made strong cases as to why our debt to GDP ratio must be calculated in a manner that will be realistic. Of course, there have been some assumptions that have been given in all this, and the IMF and the Bank of Ghana and the World Bank have given reasons why they want to go this line. And that is the way they go for all other countries in the world.
Get you.
And so until that is changed, you may not be able to do so.
So we couldn't have just done this for our budget?
No, you couldn't. But because you see, Ghana, we don't even calculate month-on-month GDP. The shortest we go is quarterly.
Why did the finance minister make this proclamation?
That is the excellence and the respect I had for the vice president and finance minister, for a government to admit that the way we have been doing things are not good, even though it gives a good picture for the ruling government at the time. They say that looking within us, we think that is not the way to go. That is an honest admission of the fact that they want
beyond the admission, it would have been more honest if you started by saying, we would start with our very case, as he stated categorically. That is, if we would implement that.
That is, if the statistical service has the capacity or have what it takes to calculate even monthly GDP.
So when the finance minister made that claim, he did not know that the statistical service was incapacitated.
But of course, please, if we want to be futuristic and think big, then we must dream from somewhere. That is the direction of government.
Okay. But we don't know when it's going to happen.
Left with us alone. That is the way that is the way we should go as a country.
I agree with you.
You understand?
And I think it's a fantastic thing.
But of course, the statistical service, even the quarterly calculation of GDP, sometimes it delays. Yeah. So that is the problem. The issue of data is a big issue in this country, and it is something that we need to have some revolution to make sure that our data systems are correct. The statistical service is unable to do the monthly calculation of GDP and all that. Even the quarterly one is a problem. So I think government has given the direction, and government has shown the commitment that from us as a government, we want the right thing to be done. Let us as a country see how best we can work around this.
I get your point. Let me also get this part also clarified. I mean, so today, government is aware of its books. The economic management team and your boss, the finance minister, everybody's on the same page on how much we owe as a state. How much do we owe? Exact amount.
As far as I know, as by September.
I want you to quote.
No, I'm not the one to give official debt figures, please.
But that's why actually.
It doesn't even come from the Ministry of Finance or whoever. Okay. So the Bank of Ghana gave the figures. 138 billion cedis as at September. Yes. So until the Bank of Ghana or the appropriate body comes with the current figures, you and I, we cannot talk, we cannot speak.
But you are in a privileged position to have access to Bank of Ghana figures.
Yeah, but that information.
I only see what they put on their website. Clearly, I am not as privileged as yourself.
The budget, before the budget was read, I was privy to the content. Yes. But the laws of this country state until it is laid in Parliament, nobody can make it public. so we are going with the laws. Okay. You understand?
I get your point. So it's 3138.
Yeah, as at September, per the releases by Bank of Ghana.
Okay, break it down for me. Since January this year, how much has the current government added to what they call it, the debt stock? Specific figure in terms of as of September. Let's peg it as September.
So you know the 2016 figure?
Yes, 122.
And you know 122.6. You know the September figure?
Yes, I know, but don't ask me to do that.
Do the subtraction. Do the subtraction.
No.
Just do the subtraction.
No, I want to be clear in my mind because I also know that
it is a simple calculation to do.
I know it will be misleading to just lump them together that way because there are interest rates and others on
that is why the Bank of Ghana has given us. The Bank of Ghana has not given us decomposed figures of the debt stock. The Bank of Ghana gave us the gross. You understand? And so that is what we can speak to.
So I'm looking at 16 billion in this case.
So if you strike the difference,
yes,
that
between
is what
the 138 and the 122.
That is what it may seem to be, as you strike the
so
difference.
The 60 billion, specifically in terms of loans and other direct, what they call it, debt positions that this government have added. How much has the Akufo-Addo government added to it?
The difference you calculated
16 billion.
is quite
but you know
simple.
the 16 billion includes other factors like
exchange rate, exposures, and all of that.
Interest. So I want you to take them out because you should be privy to this figure.
No, I'm privy to it, but I'm not.
No,
the
you
one
should
to
tell me.
No,
but no, Doc.
No, please.
It's fair that the people get to know.
Raymond,
I read the entire budget. I didn't get any inkling as to that particular figure in this budget. That is why I'm worried why we are still dealing with debt to GDP ratio without telling us the actual debt.
Yeah, so I think in the thinking of the Bank of Ghana, when they released the figures, if they knew they had to put out those figures, they had to put. But like I said, I am not the one to put figures that ought to be made public by an appropriate state agency. I'm not the one to do that. So once we get closer to the agency, state agency that is supposed to give us the compositions, and they give us the composition, that is what we go by. You understand? So
what percentage of the 16 billion is direct government debt incurred within the period you're talking about?
I will not be able to tell.
You should be able to tell.
No.
Well, okay. So you won't tell us the debt that Akufo-Addo government added to it. You won't tell us.
What you are saying, you know, it is not about me. It is about state agencies doing their work. And we, as people of this country, asking them to give us the information they ought to give. That is why.
But if I ask them to give you the
that is why I cannot sit here and say that I have calculated my own GDP. It is this as of November. The Statistical Service is the body that is supposed to give.
I see. I get you. Now, Doc, we're back after this short break, and I'll be taking a short break now. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest in the studios here is a technical economic advisor to the Vice President. We are looking keenly in the minds of those who prepared the budget about what went into this particular budget and how they intend to accomplish the very bold initiatives they are put in this budget. After the break, we'll continue our conversation. You're welcome back. This is Upfront. My name is Raymond Alqua. My guest is a technical economic advisor in the office of the Vice President and the very person who has a very wonderful background in economics anyway. Dr. Gideon Boako is going with us step by step, telling us how far we've come in the implementation of the various programs that we sought to do in 2017 and projecting into 2018 the rather bold claims that have been made in this particular budget. What's going to be done about them? Especially looking at our revenue position. Of course, yesterday you had the GRA boss in this studio assuring you that the revenue targets for this year, he's very convinced they will have to make a very good showing. Next year, they'll really meet those targets. So we'll be looking at all of this, just opposing them against the current situation on the grounds. Now, let's look at the programs for 2018 and policy initiatives that will be implemented in the year 2018. But I can't skip a very important point, even though it's linked to that. Free SHS. It started implementation in September of 2017. Of course, it was not without the challenges that even the president has spoken about. But there is the inclination, and I've seen the figure, over almost 1.3 billion put in the 2018 budget to implement the program next year. Can you tell me where the money will come from?
So you're talking about 1.2
yes.
or 3 billion?
Yes, it's 1.2, over 1.2 billion, but almost 1.3 billion actually.
So the question we all have to ask ourselves and ascertain whether or not government will be able to implement is the 1.3 or the 1.2 billion within the budget? Yes, it is within the budget of government. That is, if you look at the inflows of revenues and all of that, 1.2 billion is just a certain percentage
I get
of
your
the
point.
total budget.
But just you set a standard for us last year, and I can show you. Yeah. In the budget of 2017, we were told clearly where free SHS is supposed to come from. We're told that part of it was coming from the ABFA, the annual budget funding amount, and the other part was also from another source dictated clearly in the budget. Why are we not being told where the 1.3 billion is coming from? Looking into what's supposed to be the case.
I think if you are not told, then probably the presumption would have been that, the 2017, because we mentioned the sources of it and we're able to deliver, common sense follows that. I mean, the same sources will be followed and it can be done.
But I mean, sorry, I see. So are you saying that, so what percentage of the over 1.2 billion is coming from the annual budget funding amount?
No, I haven't taken time, and I don't know if you have the full budget statement.
Yes, I have the budget. I'm looking at the appendix.
I've seen to go to the appendix. I have personally not taken time to go to the appendix, but that is not something that can escape the finance minister and all of that. Releasing the monies. What is important? What is important?
The 1.2 billion you're talking about is listed under priority program spending, and I get that. But I just want to know, like you did in the previous year, you told us that the section 188282542 was coming directly out of the ABFA, and another source, which was just put there as 8B, was supposed to be the 211717 and what they call it 458. To a curious mind like myself,
I understand that,
especially when I know that even though you budgeted 400 million, I heard government officials telling us that you spent 480 million in that area, and I didn't know where the 80 million came from.
So what it means is that what government budgeted for in 2017 for the first rollout of the free SHG, government has been able to pay and release all the amounts. That is the comfort. That as we speak today.
The schools only received 20%.
There is no arrest on free SHG.
The schools received only 20%.
I'm telling you, as we speak today, there is no arrest on free SHG.
Did the schools receive 100%?
So from the finance ministry, the releases have been made.
To the education ministry?
Whatever. Whoever is in charge of it. So the releases have been made.
Now, I just want to know.
That is
you
the
said
comfort.
that there's a 100% release of the money.
Everything is gone.
My only difficulty is that the schools are saying that so far we have received 20%.
No, you see, there's a ministry that is in charge. The ministry may decide to stagger, and there might be a reason, a good reason for that. That is how all payments are done.
Okay, I get you.
So the controller and all of them may decide to stagger it. So government has shown the commitment and has given the assurance that we promised this and we have released. That is most important. That gives us the comfort going forward that the 1.2 billion we are talking about, which is a certain percentage of the total budget allocation, that will also be released.
Even though you don't tell us the source of this 1.2 billion.
That is not a difficult thing, and that is not the crux of the matter. The most important most important aspect of the matter is that government has a budget
but
that flows over.
The times where people just watch budget figures being put in the main economic policy are past. People are interested in the details. They want to know where the money is coming from, so that they can track it and know whether you spend that money.
The point is that all the, let's say 59 billion something that the finance minister is seeking for in the budget have sources where the inflows are coming from. 1.2 is just a percentage of that. And so that is within the composite. You understand?
So are we still taking money from the ABFA for free SHS?
Why not?
It's not changed, right?
Why not? You understand? That is why I said that the thinking, maybe us at that time, we constructed the tables, would be that, these were the sources we gave in the 2017 budget. And so it makes sense to say that we run through that. I mean, these things are done all the time. But the most important thing is that the 1.2 billion is within. Once it is within, and it doesn't even choke the expenditure to let's say 90% or 80% or 60%, it means that once government decides to prioritize that, no matter what, it ought to have money for that. And that is why we talk about government priority projects. If government has it as a priority, and it is not choking the expenditure to say 90%, 80%, 60%, 70%, then the monies will be found.
I get your point.
That's the most
now,
important.
The paragraph 868 of the budget, specifically under the heading Voluntary Education Fund, says, Mr. Speaker, with the successful launch of the free SHS program, government received proposals from the public, several of which encourage the establishment of a fund to receive voluntary contributions to support education. Thankfully, the GET Fund law allows for the setting up of other education-related funds. In 2018, the ministry will work with GET Fund to set up this education fund to enable Ghanaians make voluntary contributions to support education.
Fantastic.
Many misconstrue that, not misconstrue, many believe really that this is a backdoor introduction of let them pay because we can't fund the free SHS program. Because it's not even dictated in the budget exactly where the money is coming from. So this money may just be a rules really.
Those who say that are trying to suggest that even the sea would want to reject the rainfall. The sea does not reject the rainfall. And even if when you travel to even the advanced countries.
Is this a subtle introduction?
Not at all. Government has come out with a good policy. At the time of the instigation of the policy, some people, even myself privately, I said to myself, Why would somebody who is well-to-do, a very rich person, have the child go to senior high school for free? And so there have been genuine people in society, please, who have approached government and said that they even feel guilty. And I have an uncle who tells me he feels guilty allowing the son to go to senior high school for free because he thinks he has the capacity. And some of them, I'm telling you, they have been approaching some of us. Why don't you create something so that those of us who want to contribute by way of charity will be able to contribute? If you travel to Europe, wherever, you get to the airports, they put staff there that they want people to contribute. Doesn't mean that America is poor.
I get your point.
But rather, America believes that if people have the willingness to contribute to a genuine cause, they must give them the opportunity so that one day they can also feel part of the system. You know, there are people who have gotten money and they just want the name. They want people to call them and say that you were part of the people who contributed to free senior high school. Government should not say, I am self-sufficient, I have all the money, and so I don't need your money. Nobody rejects money in that sense. So what this government has done was to go through the books to see whether or not there's a provision somewhere within the laws that allows it to do that, and it didn't want to do it outside the laws. And thankfully, the Get Fund Act gave us a window. And so government said, well, whoever, you have been talking to us, you have been calling us, whoever has the willingness to, out of his own volition, contribute something to the free senior high school. We are creating this avenue and channel for you. Come and contribute so that they can also feel that they have contributed to a good cause and God will reward them. And so that is the way to go. Government will not say that, I don't need your money, take it because I have all the money. No government in this world will do it. What is most important is that government is committed to releasing the releases that it ought to provide for the free senior high school to run. Any other thing that comes on is an addition. And government subsequently, even if has all the money to finance the free senior high school and there are other funds coming, government can turn around and use it for something good for the children.
My question to you directly on this particular matter is that, why are you saying I should go and put my money in some voluntary fund when I want my money to go to provide this specific help to students of PROSEC? What's the big deal?
Yeah, nobody stops you from that. Government has not
made
it.
Is the
government,
voluntary fund?
Government has not made this obligatory. Government hasn't said so.
No.
When you travel,
I am saying that specifically. Why can't I just pay to the PTA of PROSEC and not be compelled to only pay a meager amount of 5 cedi PTA dues and have to go and put the rest in the voluntary fund? I don't know will go anywhere.
Who is stopping you from doing what you want to do? Nobody stops you.
Because government can make more money payments.
Government is not stopping you.
I've heard the child say that they can't take money from any other person.
No, who says so?
CHAS, the Conference of First Assistance
that you can't contribute anything. We have been buying computers. I have bought computers for my alma mater.
This year?
Yeah, not this year, but so it happens all the time.
What you did was prior to time, but this year the rules are very clear. You can't make any payment to the school. That's what they have said.
No, it is not a straight jacket cut off.
Are you sure?
You ought to do that in consultation with the appropriate bodies. And what, because look, what the government is also trying to avoid is some heads of institutions trying to use that channel
to take money
exactly.
People.
So you need to do that and route it to the appropriate bodies. No government will ever say that I have a state institution that I'm overseeing and I will not allow a third person, a charity organization to come on board. It doesn't happen anywhere. You go to Kennedy School of Governance at Harvard, you go to the Gordon Business School and all of that. It is people who contributed and their names are named after such institutions elsewhere. And that is what we ought to encourage in this country. And so this government has opened the windows. If you want to go and do it by yourself, go and do it. If you want to contribute to the government fund that it is establishing, come and do so. But your contribution, your charity, does not preclude the government from doing what it is supposed to do as a responsibility. Government will go ahead to do that. Government is a father that is providing for the world. If another person comes on board, a friend, and wants to do something for the child, no problem. Government will allow you to do it.
I get your point completely, but let me move on to energy, which is a very important area too. Now, the specific importance in this particular case is this 13% tariff reduction we are talking about. How is it supposed to operate?
Yeah, so you see, the energy sector, electricity and coal, are run by independent power producers, okay? And then there's a regulatory body, which is the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, and government also set. So more or less like a tripartite something. So government has listened to the people of this country, okay? And government says that these are your cries and your heels. I want to do something to mitigate the kind of economic sufferings that you have. And on top of that, government also wants to spur production and industrialization in this country. So government has had this brilliant idea and it wants to bring it out. But the laws of this country governing us suggest that you can do such a thing only when you have notified the Public Utility Regulatory Commission and they have given their consent. And that is exactly what government is. Government does not want to be seen to be the body that takes power into his hands and exercises it as cathedraly because it is the government. No, it is the government, but it has state institutions that are supposed to govern other things. I think the body that is critical in this whole enterprise is the independent power producers. If the independent power producers say yes, the regulatory body, I bring my goods to Makola Market, and you are the market chairperson or the market queen, and I say that the goods are brought to the market. It's not just me. All the participants in the market who are the sellers, we have agreed that we want to reduce the prices of tomatoes. I don't think the market queen will be fair to purchasers of tomatoes if indeed she means well for the purchasers to say that I will allow you to reduce the prices.
So this
if the
really outside the control of government, really.
If the government wouldn't have put this in the budget if the necessary discussions and the talks had not gone on. You understand? The people who are critical in this.
So why didn't the PRC come out to just make the declaration?
No, it doesn't happen like that. Government ought to declare the intention and refer it to the appropriate body. Nothing has gotten to the PRC.
If there were consultations,
listen,
why didn't it happen?
I'm not saying that
PRC
government has had consultation with the PRC yet. I'm saying that if the government has not officially brought that into the doorstep of the PRC, they can't act on it. And so government announces it in the budget officially. They do what is right to the PRC for consideration, and the PRC
when is the reduction
that.
going to take effect?
As soon as the PRC and all the parties agree to that.
When are they going to do that?
No, that one I don't work with the PRC. I'm not the chairman or the chief
So government has
executive.
intention to announce something. It hopes that this year it will happen, but it doesn't know when it will happen.
No, the budget is for 2018, not 2017.
Yes, I'm talking about it hopes that 2018 will happen,
exactly.
but it doesn't know when in 2018 it will happen.
Life is based on possibilities and probabilities.
Hope it doesn't become like the one this year, 1 million, one constituency thing.
I'm saying that
even spend the entire 2017 doing groundswork.
I'm saying that even our lives are based on probabilities, and the certainty of probability, which is one that's not just okay all the time. And so this is also subject to whatever. But I'm saying that this is a system we are running. The need to talk, and government knows what it has done. That is why it was bold to put it in the budget.
I get you, Doc. This budget was tagged the Ejuma budget, i.e. the budget to give jobs to people in this country. First and foremost, what is government's own appreciation of the unemployment situation in Ghana? How many Ghanaians are unemployed?
So I think the finance minister put it right, that for us as a government, the unemployment situation is a national security issue.
What does that mean?
It means that it is something that ought to be tackled heads on, straight away, without any delays and without any excuses. And that is why, right from the beginning, this government had the mindset
Doc,
to create...
I want us to move step by step. My question is, how many Ghanaians are unemployed,
for
which you seek, among other things, to project and make them...
I have no idea of the number of unemployed Ghanaians in this country.
Governments know the number of unemployed Ghanaians?
As far as I have been reading in this country, I don't think government has what it takes to calculate the number of unemployment in this country. So
which people do government have in mind when it is thinking about giving jobs to people? How many people are we conceiving? Because policy doesn't come in a vacuum, I'm sure you know that. So
we have been hearing about so many people unemployed and all of that. And that has been a problem in this country, that the issue of data gathering, as I talk about, is a big problem. And so when I hear people say the unemployment rate is this percent, I say, where did you get those figures from? There have been figures that have been bandied around all the time. But purely as a researcher, I mean, where those figures are coming from, sometimes they can be questionable. The World Bank can put some figures out there, but you ask yourself,
I get you.
whether or not those figures are accurate.
But sorry.
But it goes...
Are you giving to also question the Ghana Statistical Service when in 2015 it puts out its labor force survey, which is a survey it does periodically, and tells you that this is the unemployment figure within the period we did our survey?
I don't dispute that.
Yes.
But the point is that it's whether or not we have a robust system to be able to determine the level of unemployment in this country, how many people are employed. I.e., what figure is whatever figure is even put out, does it capture the private sector? That's a whole big issue.
Okay.
So those things are there. And so I will not be able to say that the unemployment figure today...
seeking to solve a problem, it doesn't know the number of people who are suffering
it is also very unfair and very superficial to go that way.
But it is
no, but you see, it is very superficial to go that way.
I get you, but okay,
I cannot speak to accurate figures, exact figures, because we don't have the bodies that give us what it takes.
Specifically, what is government doing in 2018 to give jobs to people it estimates are unemployed?
So let me tell you what government has done to show that it has the capacity to create jobs. When we came in, the thinking of the economic management team as at March was that we needed to ensure that if Ghana...
Don't forgive me. I know that they have wonderful ideas, but I want you to state categories.
I'm coming. I need to let you understand something.
The background to which... Because
it's very
I'm given
important.
to understand that I have less than 7 minutes to run out.
It's very important.
And I have a lot of questions for you.
If you don't understand the history of the patient, proposing medication is also...
But people don't even know the number of people who are unemployed. How do you know the history of the patient properly?
It is not about me. It is about country, Ghana.
Yes.
Ask yourself, does Ghana have the total number of unemployed people in this country?
I've given you a source
it is not about me. It is not about, and whether or not the figure we have is robust. It doesn't capture people in the private sector. I mean, these are the challenges we have as a country. It is not about me or this government. That has been the problem with us over years. What is important is that we have created and expanded the economy. We have expanded the size of this economy. If you have farm and you till only 1 acre of the farm, there's a limit to the number of people you can employ. If you employ more, diminishing marginal productivity sets in. The additional person who is coming does not contribute anything. What this government sought to do was to expand the size of this economy, grow it from 3.7% to 7.8%. We have added more acreages.
On the back of oil, predominantly.
It is part of the economy, isn't it?
Yes.
So we have added
but
more.
Oil doesn't give jobs as much as we want.
Who told you oil doesn't give jobs?
Comparatively.
No. But does it give jobs? It does.
I mean, minimal jobs.
No,
How many people are employed in the oil sector?
Does it give job? It does.
That's why we say we have jobless growth.
So that is the most important. The services sector is growing. The services sector gives a lot of jobs. 55%. Okay. When you put the whole thing and you decompose, the service sector gives 55%. And so the most important, we have created an enabling environment. The economy has expanded, more acreages added, so we can add more labor to the farm.
Doc,
and that is why we have...
I need you to specifically state what government is doing to
so
give
we're
jobs
going
to
to do what we call the Nation Builders Corps. That is the new framework we are bringing on
Extended national service.
That is what you think. You understand? that is what you can.
I see it. I see it being written there.
You can simplify
in paragraph 806. It's clear.
You can simplify it in that sense.
Yes.
But the most important thing is that government is going to create a lot of jobs for the
those who are going to be employed under that program. How much are they going to be paid?
How much?
Yes.
They are going to be paid. I don't know.
Will they be paid?
I don't hide. Okay. So
no, because, I mean,
so once will
they be paid more than the national service personnel?
Why not? Why not? These are graduates who have gone through national service, are employable. Okay? They are within the labor force. And so they must receive higher.
How different is that recruitment from that of the YEA's modules that is currently in operation?
So the YEA operates on a certain module, and it is not just targeted at graduates. Okay? This one is just going to target only graduates. And there's going to be a selection process based on competence and all of that. All these modalities will be put in place, and the Ghanaians will be made known to that. And then once...
All types of graduates?
As far as I know,
of your background?
As far as I know, it is graduates. Every graduate needs to be employed.
Okay.
There's no graduate in this country who does not qualify to be employed.
How many people leave school every year without jobs?
I may not be able to give you that statistics.
Okay, so you are taking 100,000 out of what is estimated to be over 200,000, isn't it?
That is fair.
Half of it?
Half a loaf is better than no bread.
What happens to the other half?
I said half of a loaf is always better than no bread. We need to start from somewhere. 100,000, as you move along and we're able to expand and expand, we increase it. But there ought to be such deliberate effort to take the teeming unemployed Ghanaian youth.
Is it government's understanding of the economy and the problem of unemployment in Ghana that is a lack of opportunity, or is the lack of skillful human resource who are needed in the market today? For
me, the biggest challenges is lack of opportunities.
That's how government sees it.
Ghanaian young guys are intelligent. Whoever tells me the Ghanaian graduate lacks the skills, within certain relativities, it may be so. But I tell you, if the opportunities are there, everybody would want to put his or her skills on
So beyond
board.
the 100,000, which other groups will get jobs next year? And what's
Yeah,
been
so
done?
the youth employment program, then NYEA, is running.
Last year, I was supposed to employ 60,000. What's going to be the figure for 2018?
Get closer to the youth employment agency. They should be able to tell you how many people they
Was it even
employ.
able to recruit the 60,000 in 2017?
I think they have advertised that they have employed a lot of people this year.
Yeah, it looks
but,
like
but the
virtually
figure,
what happened in the 1D1F, 1 million per constituency is still the background work. Was there anybody
the National Youth
recruited
Employment Agency has employed a lot of people this year. The figure I may not be able to tell, but you know.
up to 60,000?
I said the figure I may not be able to tell
okay.
you. And I don't want to be the politicians who talk things that they don't know. I mean, it is fair that, I mean, I'm not supposed to know everything by all figures. And so that is the most important thing. But the good thing is that there have been this employment drive. And government is leading the charge, also throwing the challenge to the private sector, which has the capacity to employ the majority of the people.
In all, how many should expect employment in the year 2018?
In total?
Yes.
That is something that I wouldn't want to talk about.
Government does
I
have an estimation.
may not be able to say.
When the Planting for Food and Jobs started, they said they wanted to employ 750,000 people. How many have you employed so far?
I think the finance minister gave a figure in the budget, just that I don't recall for now. But there was a figure given in the budget as to how many people, farmers, have been brought on board in the Planting for Food and Jobs, and how many young graduates have also been employed. There are figures in the budget. Just like you and I, we have been reading. The budget is very big. We cannot speak to that figure.
Of course.
So it's a challenge to you and I.
That's interesting. But I'm giving to understand I have to run up on this particular conversation soon. I wish we could have you back in the course of the year. When the new year starts, we should have a conversation on that, because sometimes things will be clear and we know how.
Why not? And government is doing a lot of things to help and ease the business environment, especially on the cost of credit and all of that.
That's one point I wanted to clarify with you. We slipped on the ease of doing business report.
Yeah.
That's not good for your government.
Yeah, so 2 hours ago, I received the Songhai advisory report,
yes,
and I tried to read it. And the main issue is digitization. And you can see that Ghana, through the vice president, has been embarking on serious agenda.
Bring up the
serious agenda for digitization. So wait and see the next year review of the ease of doing business by the World Bank, and you see where Ghana will be. That is where the drive is going.
Folks, that's where we tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of UPfront. My name is Raymond Alcom. My guest is the technical advisor in the office of the Vice President on Economic Matters in this Republic. Thank you so much for joining us on this one.